Folks, this is Book Talk with Corbin, and I'm your host. We have with us a great guest, Addia Wuchner. She's the executive director of the Kentucky Right to Life, and she's also a former state rep. She served in the Kentucky Assembly for about 14 years. Made some historic, had an historic appointment. And folks, let me tell you something. She's got a lot to say about some of the major cultural issues facing this country. And as a matter of fact, I had only said to myself, well, we'll do these 2 quick interviews, and then she brought something up, and I said, okay, no, we're going to do 2 quick interviews today, and we're going to tease you about the third one. I hope that I can schedule with her later. It is just that important. Sister, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Corbin.
What I'd like to do is really just, since this is the first time you've come on for my listeners, I really just like for you to talk to us, introduce us to Kentucky Right to Life. I've heard it here and there, over the past several years, but I really need for you to give me a solid introduction to the Kentucky Right to Life.
Well, thank you. And I guess we'll go back to January 22nd of 1973. And a woman in Louisville during that time, or prior to the time, was watching what was going on with the issue of abortion. And she felt very called to create an organization. I say we all stand on her shoulders, and some of those early founders, another gentleman from Louisville, a judge from Northern Kentucky, Judge Bob Green. The Kentucky Right to Life is the oldest pro-life organization in Kentucky. And I say pro-life, pro-family, pro-woman. It was founded and serves as a coordinating body for all of our local Right to Life chapters. So there are chapters throughout the state, from Owensboro to Northern Kentucky to Central Kentucky to Meade, Breck, and with one mission, and that is to advocate, to educate, to create an awareness of life, of this issue, of the sanctity, the dignity, this child. We've gone from calling the child the unborn child, now the word is preborn. But that child in the womb is unique and has dignity, to love both. I often say we love the mother and the child, but to bring about an end of abortion. And as a former lawmaker, they've worked very hard, especially the last few years since the change in the General Assembly, to make some laws that, again, support life and the dignity and pro-life legislation. So that's one piece of what Kentucky Right to Life does. It works very hard to restore the legal protection of those members of our human culture, our human society, our human race, and human family that are threatened by abortion, euthanasia, infanticide. So we believe life begins from conception to natural death. I just did an interview with CBS, and the interviewer asked me, well, the belief is that life begins at birth. And I said, so if that's the way culture has shifted in their beliefs, what are you before birth? It's a matter of science. It's basic biology. At the moment of conception, a DNA from the mother and the father unite, and a unique individual is formed. So I said, we can make all the laws we want to protect life, that we should be. And I have to applaud the current General Assembly for the work that they're doing, and Attorney General Cameron. We will be in Washington next Tuesday as he fights to defend his legal right as the Attorney General to support the laws of Kentucky. It was the last bill that I sponsored at the General Assembly. Once we sponsor a bill and author it, when everybody votes for it, those that vote yes, they become co-sponsors of that bill. 106 members of 138 members of the General Assembly voted yes to ban live dismemberment abortions, a particularly gruesome form of abortion that is done later in the process, where the child has to be dismembered to be removed from the body of the mom.
Stop right there. You mean to tell me, this is hard for me to fathom, so I need for you to walk me through this very carefully. You mean to tell me that child in the womb has formed arms and legs and all. Is that correct?
Fingers and toes, eyelashes, fully, I wish I had one of my fetal monitors. I mean, tiny, but perfectly formed human being. And so,
And so
a
then
lot,
this procedure, you use the word dismember. Do you
it
mean
bans dismemberment, vivisection, the crushing of the child's skull, whatever has to be done. The early abortions, and that's why somebody goes, people literally said to me, what? I didn't think that's what it was.
oh my
They
God.
thought early abortions are similar to what we call a D&C. We've had those with bleeding, miscarriage, and then it's, in women's health, but it's also early abortions are done through this dilatation and curettage, which just removes, kind of scrapes that early developing child out. But as the child develops and becomes a bit larger, in order to remove the child, they have to dilate. And then it's gruesome to listen to. I said for 6 days in Louisville, listening to this hearing as they argued over what was it, a 13 or 11-inch instrument, to then dismember the limbs of the child. And this is very gruesome. And then they're reassembled in afterwards to make sure they have all the parts of the child, conception of the fetus, the fetal child, removed. And so that is called a D&E abortion. And there's about 500, over 500 of those procedures or more that are done later. They're not after 20 weeks. It's in between that 12-week and that 20-week or 14 weeks to 20-week span of abortions that are done here. And it, when you survey the general public and they know about this, even if they're pro-abortion, even if they're pro-choice,
Yes.
when they know that this form of abortion is taking place, they find that particularly gruesome. When I presented the bill in the General Assembly, I remember the media, and I showed line drawings, not gruesome pictures, to be respectful of the dignity of this child. But people didn't even want to see the line drawing to understand what that really involves. So in 2018, it passed by Republican and Democrat support, 106 members of 138 members of the General Assembly. It went, then the governor then signed, it was signed by the president of the Senate and the Speaker of the House on March 29th. It goes to the governor then signed it. And ACLU, Planned Parenthood, and EWW immediately then had an injunction against it. So we've been fighting it. It made its way to the Sixth Circuit, and it depends on what panel of judges you draw. We lost there, and so it was going to be appealed. Elections have consequences. The then Attorney General, who is now governor, at the time did not want to appeal it, and as governor, he has chosen that his office or administration will not join in appealing that decision.
Mm-hmm.
So our current Attorney General, this is where we are now, Attorney General Cameron is fighting for the right to what we call intervene. So his legal team were going, to the Supreme Court to intervene on behalf of a law that was passed by the majority of the legislators, which represent the people of Kentucky. So thank you for letting me share about this. A lot of people don't realize what entails this particular form of abortion.
I couldn't, in my worst nightmare, and I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't imagine. It's like, I remember 9/11. I've been in the Twin Towers. I couldn't imagine someone taking two planes into that, and I couldn't imagine being in the middle of that hell. And this, what you just described, it's like a hell. I couldn't imagine that. I mean, I'm a sinner just like anybody else, sinner saved by grace. But I don't care. I don't care how much of it. That's just.
I've often used 9/11. I said we were in shock, just as you described, watching body parts fall from the sky.
Yes.
And we should be equally as shocked and disturbed when we think about these very early lives as they're being torn apart. I thought maybe 9/11 would almost be a wake-up call for us to see I don't want to say the similarity, but that the value, and for someone as what took place there to devalue life to that extent.
There's a lot we can talk about there. One quick thing though is the medical. I mean, obviously the doctor performing this knows what he or she is doing. I mean,
they do. And when I listened to testimony, we had a former abortionist who has had a conversion, talk about and describe the procedure. It's very painful to listen to. And then you have the current abortionist that's at ENW describe it, and they kind of got into this thing about the length of the instrument, and but they do it. And I guess I forgot to say, I'm a nurse. I used to work at the old St. Anthony's in Louisville. I worked, with babies, moms having babies. I have had the blessing to be when God places that first life, when a child comes into the world, and when God takes that life at the end. And I often say I've seen the breath of God, there at the bedside of a patient.
Yes.
It is hard to fathom, because the medical profession, the nursing, the caring art, the healing art, the science behind it, all is about life, supporting life. But there is a different mindset. And when the reporter the other day said, well, the other side, and I asked the head of Planned Parenthood one time, they were in my office in Frankfurt. I said, so when do you believe that life begins? And they said at birth. And so I kind of went through the science of it. And I said, for me, there's not a hierarchy of life or dignity. Mm-hmm. The mother and the child are equal in dignity and the sanctity of their lives. And they're equal. And that we made a grave mistake in this country at one point when we thought that there was a hierarchy between the dignity and the sacredness of life of the free man and the slave, or the white man and the black man. We've made those mistakes. We have, I believe, made a grave mistake in Roe that needs to be changed and altered. And we mm-hmm. So when you ask what Kentucky Right to Life does, that's what they've been doing for so many years, along with, we're part of National Right to Life, and we partner with family organizations like Family Foundation and faith communities, and just the good people of Kentucky who believe that this is wrong, that every life is sacred and has dignity and value.
How can people connect with Kentucky Right to Life?
They can reach out to us at our office there in Louisville. They can call us and reach out and go to our website. Of course, we're on Facebook, but our office is very simple. It's 502-895-5959. Also, they could go to yesforlifeky.com, because Kentucky this year, the General Assembly passed their own, that we've all supported, a constitutional amendment that affirms that what happened in DC on the federal side many years ago will never happen in Kentucky. And it's a Yes for Life constitutional amendment. It will be on the ballot November 8th of 2022. And it says that in the Kentucky Constitution, nothing upholds or supports abortion or the funding thereof. It then means that it's the lawmakers, those duly elected by the people, that make the laws in Kentucky to protect life. So it's preparing, should Roe or portions of those decisions be granted back to the states, it's preparing the way that Kentucky has a strong voice that says we are pro-life. So yesforlifeky.com, or at our krla.org. They can reach us either way, or through the phone number.
Okay.
Or call me. I'm always happy to talk to people and share and listen to their stories.
Okay, folks, this is a Book Talk with Corbin. I'm here with the Executive Director of Kentucky Right to Life. Just had a very powerful few minutes of questions with her. I learned a lot. I learned something I just didn't know at all. And so, sis, what we're going to do, we're going to conclude this interview here. I want to urge my listeners, please, use that contact information she just gave you. Also go to my website, booktalkwithcorbin.com. I will have this interview posted there, hopefully within the next few days and all. And I really want you guys to please listen to it, take notes, and to share it with as many other people as you know. I don't care if they're so-called pro-life or pro-abortion. I don't care where they are. If they are a citizen of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, they need to hear this interview. Period. End of discussion. Thank you. I'll be back with you all.